MARTY SUPREME, directed by Josh Safdie, is a look into the pursuit of greatness through the eyes of table tennis athlete Marty Mauser. Set in the early 50s, we watch on through a series of events highlighting Marty's regard for one thing and one thing only: being great. What can I say, crew, other than dream big? I am ready to be rich after walking out of the theatres. But in all seriousness, this film was truly chaotic. It was super fun. It was actually hilarious. There are some jokes that I didn't think they would do that were dark and genuinely made me laugh out loud in the cinema. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. And it was a truly unique plot. Which brings me to the first point that I wanted to bring up, which is that authentic and unique plots like this are really uncommon and rare these days. Luckily enough, this film season, we've seen a few examples of that. You know, this film in particular, No Other Choice are probably the two that I'd highlight the most. And what I wanted to say about that is that, you know, in a time where we get a lot of repeated media or, you know, movies redone or series of superhero movies over and over again, to get pieces like this that are refreshing and unique is something that I personally really appreciate. And I'm just so thankful that people take swings on things like this, regardless of whether they're good or not. I just really appreciate the authenticity. All right, so let's dive into the narrative to start. I think that I found most of it pretty well set up. I mean, you feel the increased magnitude of each situation as they unfold on screen. Everything felt like an incredibly heightened risk, and it kept raising the stakes every time at every turn, and you definitely buy into the intensity. In that sense, it's incredibly consuming. And so for 95% of the plot, I don't think I would change anything. I think the series of events was really well put together and made for a great film. However, I do feel like the ending in particular and the final message felt essentially like a combination of being rushed and almost forced on us. And what I mean by that is the narrative really clearly lays out that Marty is the type of person that is purely consumed by greatness, and that whatever gets in the way of that, whether that be relationship, whether that be family, it's non-existent in his mind because he's tunnel visioned on his goal. And so as he pushes everybody away in focus of that and goes to Japan, that felt authentic and right as the right thing to happen based on who Marty is. But then he comes back to New York and all of a sudden he's overwhelmed with emotion and consoling Rachel. And then as we see at the end of the film, he's incredibly consumed by his now baby, which is his. And I guess it leaves too much up in the air for question for me, because are we supposed to believe that this is now his goal? Like his next pursuit of greatness is to be the greatest out of all time? Or is it that they're trying to show this emotional side of him that hasn't existed for 95% of the film? And I think that in itself as a question is what I feel is a little bit unfinished. I would have preferred if they kept it one way or the other. I think that even ending it in Japan, where the payoff isn't as great as he was hoping it would be, was probably a more sobering truth to what greatness can have as an impact and effect on people. So in terms of the narrative, I just wish that there was probably a little bit of a different ending, and instead of forcing that last little bit on us, maybe going in a different direction. But beyond that, if we have a deeper look into the performances in the film, I mean, what can you say about Timmy? He was absolutely fantastic. It's a script that was 100% made for him. To be honest, I actually feel like that's his natural personality, which is really great, because if it isn't, then it's incredible acting. But two, even if it is, he really leaned into it in such a strong way and made the film what it is. I also think it's worth mentioning that the idea of running with an anti-hero is kind of refreshing in this environment. I mean, if we reflect and think about some of the great anti-heroes that we've had in the 21st century, they often become the most compelling people that you find yourself rooting for them despite the fact that they're potentially unlikable. I mean, think about Walter White, think about Tony Soprano. So seeing that play out and seeing Timmy do such a great job, and, you know, you being on his side despite some of the obvious narcissistic traits he has was really cool. I also think it's worth mentioning additionally that Odessa A'zion was really great in this film. And I mean, personally to me, she hadn't really been on my radar. I haven't seen her in anything. So she's definitely now one to watch going forward. And I just really appreciated the level that she went to. I felt in every big scene with Timmy that she was really there. And one of her later scenes, leaving the house during the pregnancy bit, I thought was really powerful and one of the strongest scenes in the film. On the opposite side of it though, I would say Mr. Wonderful, you know, Kevin O'Leary, I think it was a cool addition. I see what they were trying to do there, and he just has his limitations. Obviously he's not an actor, but you know, it ended up being a little bit cheesy. He kept doing, I guess, his Shark Tank bits, you know, when he was like, I'm going to make you an offer. And I was like, okay, I love Shark Tank, don't get me wrong, but I just felt it was a little bit funny in the context of the film.
He's bounced back. That shows you the power of Shark Tank and why they call me Mr. Wonderful.
Okay, I'll give you $200 for the pig box. Listen, I think I'm going to save children by doing that. We're going to put that in my museum of really bad ideas that can kill people.
The last thing that I wanted to mention within the confines of the film was the time period that they used. Now, it's set in the early 50s. I think 1952 is what I read. And I get that for aesthetic and design, it worked really well. So I can appreciate that that's a choice that Josh Safdie wanted to make. One, to pay homage to the actual story that it was based on, but two, because that setting looks really appealing and great on screen. But apart from that specific aesthetic setting, I think that that's where their commitment to this actual era and the time that they put this movie in ends. And to me, if they had have been able to adapt the dialogue and a few of the other things to feel like it was from the 50s, I think that this film has another level and another stratosphere that it could have reached. And you know, just a small example of that is the dialogue felt very 2026. You know, there's a point there where Odessa and Timmy are arguing in the hotel lobby, and Odessa turns to him and goes, "That is such narcissistic behavior." And I'm like, no one in 1952 was diagnosing someone as a narcissist. No one was talking like that. So I wonder if they had have made that commitment to adapting the dialogue to feel like 1950s lingo and slang and have some of the mannerisms and continued on in that sphere, just what this could have been. I think that it's already a unique and incredible film, but adding that would have turned it into something that would have been absolutely special. And so this isn't a criticism in a sense, it's more so if we had have added that on, man, that would have been something incredible and something we would have talked about for years. Additionally, the score, you know, I like synth pop. I think that, you know, it made the film feel very tense. It made it feel very Safdie-esque. But again, I go, we're in the 50s. We're not really in that synth era. Is there a way we could have done that with some classical music and felt really tense and brought the same elements to it, but honored the time era a bit more? And again, like, we finished the film listening to Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. Like, I personally go, I would have loved to see that be more specific to the timepiece and time era. Again, not a criticism in terms of my enjoyment of the film, just what I would have wanted to see to take it again to that next level. And yeah, regardless, it was still a great film. It was still a great piece of art. And I am really glad movies like this exist and are being made. And as you can see on screen now, here are my scores. Interestingly, I thought this was going to be my number one film of the season through obviously everything I saw leading up to it, all the press that we saw in 2025 as Marty Supreme was being made. And I think that as I reflect on that, it really speaks to how incredible Timothy has been in terms of actually spruiking this movie and continuing to act in the part of Marty Mauser beyond actually just the film itself. And I think the best way to describe that is that his performance, his acting performance, didn't finish when shooting on set finished. It actually transcended into modern media, and so it's interactable. We can actually speak to it. We see him live doing the performance as he continued and did his press tour with the awkward zooms, you know, the rap video, all the interviews. And you think about the landscape of media today and what's happening with live streaming and interacting with the creators becoming more and more of a thing. And I wonder, is this the next evolution for a lot of actors to follow going forward? Like, look at Margot Robbie right now. She's walking around telling everybody that she can find that she's in love with Jacob Elordi and she's codependent on him in preparation for Wuthering Heights coming out. It's a question that I'm asking myself right now, and I think it's one that we should all think about going forward, and that is that are extended performances that transcend the screen and continue on into the media going to become the norm? Until next time, crew. Peace.